In the winter of 1943, while the world's attention focused on bloody battles across Europe and the Pacific, a different kind of war was being waged in the shadows. This wasn't fought with bullets or bombs, but with something far more ambitious, the very forces of nature itself. Deep within classified facilities, scientists were racing to create what could have been the ultimate weapon: the ability to control the weather. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is documented history that remained buried for decades, a secret so profound that even today its full implications challenge our understanding of warfare, ethics, and humanity's relationship with the natural world. The concept sounds like something from science fiction, yet the evidence is undeniable. Declassified documents reveal that multiple nations during World War II were actively pursuing meteorological warfare. The Germans, the Americans, the British all recognized that whoever could command the skies, not just with aircraft but with the weather itself, would possess an insurmountable advantage. Imagine being able to summon fog to conceal troop movements, manufacture blizzards to freeze enemy supply lines, or redirect hurricanes toward invasion fleets. This wasn't fantasy to the scientists working in secret laboratories across the globe. This was the future of warfare, and they were determined to make it real. The architects of this audacious project were some of the era's most brilliant minds, many of whom had been plucked from prestigious universities and thrust into the moral quagmire of total war. These weren't mad scientists from pulp novels. They were meteorologists, physicists, and chemists who understood atmospheric dynamics in ways their contemporaries could barely comprehend. They grappled with equations that could predict weather patterns weeks in advance, experimented with chemical compounds that might seed clouds or disperse them, and theorized about ways to heat or cool vast regions of atmosphere to trigger cascading meteorological effects. The pressure on these individuals was immense. Nations were fighting for survival, and conventional weapons weren't enough. They needed something revolutionary, something that could end the war decisively. The research facilities where this work occurred read like locations from a spy thriller. Remote bunkers in the Norwegian mountains, where scientists studied how to intensify Arctic weather systems. Hidden laboratories beneath the English countryside, where researchers experimented with cloud manipulation techniques. Desert installations in the American Southwest, where the military tested methods for suppressing or enhancing precipitation. These locations were chosen for their isolation and their access to diverse climatic conditions. Security was absolute. Even many high-ranking military officials had no idea what was being developed in these facilities. The scientists worked in compartmentalized teams, each knowing only their small piece of the larger puzzle, a security measure that ensured no single person could comprehend or compromise the entire operation. The proposed applications of weaponized weather were as terrifying as they were tactically brilliant. Consider the D-Day invasion of June 1944, already delayed by natural weather conditions that threatened the entire operation. Now imagine if the Allies had possessed the ability to manufacture perfect invasion conditions: calm seas, clear skies, favorable winds, while simultaneously conjuring a devastating storm over German positions inland. Or, reverse the scenario. What if Nazi scientists had successfully created a hurricane in the English Channel, scattering the invasion fleet and drowning thousands before they ever reached the beaches? The strategic implications were, honestly, staggering. Plans existed for far more insidious applications. Documents described proposals to create artificial droughts over agricultural regions, starving enemy populations into submission. There were even schemes to intensify monsoons over critical supply routes, rendering them impassable quagmires. Naval strategists fantasized about summoning fog banks to blind enemy fleets or dispersing protective cloud cover to expose cities to aerial bombardment. The scientists weren't just thinking tactically, they were thinking apocalyptically, envisioning weather warfare on a scale that could reshape entire theaters of operation and, potentially, end the war in weeks rather than years. The human cost of such weapons would have been catastrophic in ways that extended far beyond the battlefield. A manufactured drought doesn't discriminate between soldiers and civilians. An engineered flood drowns indiscriminately. The scientists working on these projects understood this, and for many it became an unbearable moral burden. Some of the project's most brilliant minds began questioning whether humanity should possess such power, whether the ability to weaponize nature itself crossed a line that even total war couldn't justify. These weren't abstract philosophical debates. These were urgent conversations happening in top-secret facilities as the weapons inched closer to operational readiness. Yet despite the resources invested and the progress achieved, the weather weapon never saw deployment. Why? The official explanation points to technical limitations. The technology simply wasn't reliable enough, and the atmospheric dynamics were just too complex to control with wartime precision. But, declassified correspondence suggests something more profound occurred. Military strategists and political leaders began to recognize the potential for catastrophic, unintended consequences. Weather systems, after all, don't respect national borders. A weapon that triggers a drought in enemy territory might, create a dust bowl in allied nations. A manufactured hurricane couldn't be precisely controlled or switched off. The scientists had created something they couldn't fully predict or contain, and that terrified even the most hawkish military minds. There was another factor. The ethical implications were beginning to dawn on decision-makers. Using weather as a weapon meant attacking the fundamental systems that sustain all life. It meant accepting responsibility for famines, for ecological collapse, for consequences that might persist for generations. Some argued this crossed a threshold that even nuclear weapons didn't approach. At least atomic bombs could be aimed at specific targets. Weather warfare was inherently indiscriminate, its effects unpredictable and potentially irreversible. In a series of classified meetings near the war's end, the decision was made to mothball the research, to bury it so deeply that future generations might never be tempted to resurrect it. But secrets have a way of resurfacing, and the ghost of World War II's weather weapon continues to haunt modern military and scientific thinking. The technology that seemed impossibly ambitious in the 1940s is now routine. We seed clouds to enhance rainfall. We track and predict weather patterns with satellite precision. And we understand atmospheric chemistry in ways those wartime scientists could barely imagine. The fundamental question remains unchanged. Should we manipulate weather systems for strategic advantage, and if so, where do we draw the line? Today's military planners study those declassified documents with renewed interest. Climate change has made weather an increasingly important factor in global security, and the ability to influence meteorological patterns has obvious strategic value. Cloud seeding programs operate in dozens of countries. Research into atmospheric modification continues, though now it's framed as climate mitigation rather than weaponization. The technology has evolved, but the ethical dilemmas have only intensified. We possess far greater power to alter weather systems than those World War II scientists ever dreamed possible. which makes their ultimate decision to step back even more relevant to our current moment. This story isn't just a historical curiosity, it's a mirror reflecting humanity's eternal struggle between capability and wisdom, between what we can do and what we should do. Those scientists in their secret laboratories faced a choice that confronts every generation. When we gain the power to reshape fundamental aspects of our world, how do we wield that power responsibly? Their answer was restraint, a recognition that some powers are too dangerous to unleash even in humanity's darkest hours. The weather weapon of World War II was never used, but its legacy persists in every conversation about geoengineering, climate manipulation, and environmental security. Subscribe to Through Time and share this story, because understanding how past generations confronted existential questions about power and responsibility helps us navigate our own uncertain future. History doesn't just teach us what happened, it teaches us who we are and who we might become.